Stonks.
When it comes to vintage stuff, the cards age like a nice fine wine, all right? They're really just one and the same. The older, the better, and especially that is still the case when it comes to sports cards. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into Card Stocks number 5. Of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, and I am joined alongside by the man that just makes money out of nothing. He flips cards like it ain't no problem. And I don't know, man. There's a reason we put the expert next to his name is because he knows what the hell he's talking about. So it's time to listen to none other than fourth along card expert, Ray Rodriguez. Ray, welcome. Always, we got some stuff to talk about later, a little later, just because you did something great over the weekend. We'll get to that when we get to the new segment. We have Flex It Friday. We'll still have that for this one as well. But also we're going to throw in a little bit Flip It Friday. But Ray, welcome in. And it's time to get retro up in here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to talk about it. This is probably my favorite part of card collecting in general is just all the old stuff. It's great.
Right. I think we all know when I took over my dad's old baseball card collection, just like this old box top set from like the 80s. I mean, you could find some freaking gems in there, but that's exactly what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the vintage card market and how you could essentially exploit it and how you can make some money off of it and maybe a couple cards that you should go after. But Ray, first things first, give us a little breakdown of the vintage card market and why it's such a good kind of niche of the whole card collecting kind of community, and how did you get into it as well?
So first off, you got to be specific with what you're considering vintage. Like you said earlier, just anything from the 80s to the mid 90s is pretty widely known as junk wax. And it's just because
is that like actual industry term? We going with junk wax?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you can.
All right, let's define that for those that are maybe not for junk wax. It's Ray. Break it down. All right, let's break down the breakdown.
So, you know how in almost every household there's a junk drawer. Just a bunch of nothing that's really not that important. That's junk wax. It's they were just so overly produced and so heavily printed that, I mean, almost every dad in America now has a shoebox filled with these cards. It sucks, but it's pretty much junk. So you got to be really specific with what you're considering vintage. And me personally, I consider vintage cards anywhere from 1970 and older.
So you're thinking like a maybe 40-year gap at the late, or like a 50-year gap, you think is typically when it starts to enter vintage territory?
Yeah, that's what I consider really vintage.
Absolutely. And so why do you think this is such a important part of card collecting? Why do you like it so much?
I think just like as a collector, you learn almost the history of card collecting, and you can see where everything really started.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have some cards from the 60s, and it's just the way the pictures were, and it's just it's really fun to see how much the cards have grown and like the card companies have evolved. So, like back then the card stock itself was super flimsy and like deteriorated really easily. And now it's more to, polished card. They hold up longer. It's crazy to see just how far things have come.
I think it's safe to say that when they first started manufacturing these cards, they didn't really think it would turn into something this crazy. They just kind of stuck them in gum wrappers as a little toy, right?
Yeah, well, actually, funny thing is, too, Topps started out as a bubblegum manufacturer.
The gum cards just took off that much, I guess, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, kids were putting them in their bicycle spokes. So who would have known those cards would be worth so much money today?
Dude, that's like forgetting to invest in, or not investing in Apple when you were like back in the 90s when they were starting. You put a freaking Hank Aaron card in the bike spokes.
Yeah, like a 1952 Mickey Mantle, throwing it in your bike spokes and just riding around. That card's going for like, a couple $1,000,000 now.
Oh, that just reminds me of Sandlot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what a movie that was. But yeah, let's talk about this because what we have a couple cards that Ray's going to show us. One from the sport of baseball, one from the sport of football. It's just like a good stock portfolio. Diversify, all right? And so that's exactly what we're going to do here. It's good to invest, of course, like normal stocks, into the stuff you like, into the sports you like and know. But also it's good to invest in a wide variety of the sports as well. And so, Ray, what do you have for us first here?
So first we're going to start with baseball, and I'm going to be suggesting today 1960 Topps Sandy Koufax.
All right.
And those are like for a good quality card that's not too damaged. You can get one for between $60 and $80. So, it's a little more pricey for like, starting out. But, I mean, the longer you wait, the less and less cards there will be that are actually in good condition.
So essentially it's a waiting game. Keep yours nice. Everyone else is going to screw up.
Exactly. Pretty much like eventually there's just going to be none left out there, and it's going to be whoever has them, has them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and he's on the Dodgers. That's a huge market. And it's kind of, it's messed up, but he's still alive. So we've seen it. It's just as soon as, a player gets older and he dies, he gets a bunch of media attention and people start grabbing his stuff. We've seen it with Hank Aaron cards recently. It's crazy. Just, it's sad, but it's just what happens as soon as they pass, their cards seem to go up a ton in value.
That's just a fact of the cold and cruel card collecting world. Man, that was a lot of C's right there. What's the next card you have for us?
So next we're going to be doing football. We're doing a 1970 Topps Dick Butkus. And similar to Sandy Koufax, he's in a big market. The Bears have a really big following all over the country. 1970s, right? That cutoff.
Back when they were still relevant.
Still Yep, exactly.
Sorry, Bears fans, if you're listening.
That's also going to be in the $60 to $80 range. So it's still, but the same principles apply. It's hard to find cards that are still in good condition.
Now, is that the price range you like to stay around as well, the $60 to $80, or is that kind of like the median price, I guess, if you will, for these vintage cards?
Yeah, so like that's a good price to buy non-graded because it's going to be in good shape. So if you want to get it graded, you can get a good grade. Once you go over $80, I would just recommend buying an already graded card.
Gotcha.
And anything below like $50, it's like going to be a really beat up card, and it's not going to grade well.
You're talking
it's
like
gonna be
sixes and under from PSA?
Way lower than that.
All right. So,
like vintage cards, grading wise, you want to try to get between like a 4 and a 6.
Oh, okay.
It's super different with vintage cards. Grading is, the centering was way different back then. The corners don't hold up well over time. It's just, so if you can get between a 4 and a 6, you're doing really well.
So do the grade companies grade stricter the older they are, or is it the same standards? It's just that the cards hold up less?
Same standards. It's just the cards hold up less. I mean, we're talking a card from 1960. It's 60 years old. So it's just not going to be in the same condition.
Absolutely. That makes plenty of sense there. And so your recommendation, you want to be between $60 and $80 for ungraded cards, but when it comes to graded cards, what's that median price a little bit closer to?
I'd probably say $100 and up.
Just because, and so you should be, and you say you want to just stay, if you buy a graded one, you want to stay between, nothing lower than 4?
If you can, but sometimes for certain players, like something graded a 4 is just going to be super expensive. So
just because name value there.
You can go down to like a 2.5 if you want, just if it's like a really big guy. Like if you can get anything like, let's say Mickey Mantle, anything graded Mickey Mantle is going to be worth a lot of money because he's like one of the grail guys in a lot of collectors' opinions. It just changes based from player to player.
Absolutely. It definitely makes a lot of sense there. It's also easier sometimes just to feel like almost like out of an effort that it takes. Sometimes it's easier just to roll with the pre-graded stuff as well. Because, like last time I heard it, the grading is still extremely backed up. Is that the case?
Yeah, it's still super backed up, and you're guaranteed authenticity. It's like, it takes a while to know when something is too good to be true. But if you get something graded, you're 100% sure it's legit.
Yeah,
because you can buy a raw card on eBay and it can end up being a reprint, or someone's just trying to make a quick buck.
Is that something you've ran into personally before, or have we been able to stay away from that? Because of course, eBay, great place to purchase these cards, but also,
Yeah, you can get gypped on eBay. I personally haven't. If I find something that's really good price and it looks really good, I check it out and see what picture I can find, or I'll contact the seller and ask for more pictures. And if they're open and willing to give me more photos and stuff, or if they're a little more standoffish, I can kind of decide if it's too good to be true or if it's a legit thing.
Because I feel like if they're a little bit more hesitant to show evidence that it's real, it's probably not.
Yeah, most of the time.
A rule of thumb.
Yeah. Yeah, so just do your research.
Right.
Like if you think it's too good, ask about it. But more often than not, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is.
Absolutely. So that's some fantastic advice there. So we're looking a little bit of a Dick Butkus action. Sandy Koufax, a couple of cards. What year was the Butkus one again?
That was 1970 tops, and he is also still alive. So same thing applies.
Just don't try to manipulate the stocks. Is I think the recommendation legally that I have to give you guys.
Yeah, stay away from them after you buy the card. Just let Mother Nature run its course. Just a
disclaimer. Don't kill them. All right. We'll leave it at that. Okay. I feel like I've covered our ass legally enough here, so we can move on into the next part of this, and that is what we're talking about here. Sometimes and Ray was telling about some of the great stuff he's done over the past few weeks. So if you've missed some of that stuff, I mean, we've talked MMA, we've talked beginner stuff, we've talked football and baseball as well. So if you missed any of the previous four, go ahead and check those out. You can find everything at thefourthandlong.com. But Ray was talking about how you can flip some stuff. You can flip it quick, and it really just depends on timing. If you could get a card and flip over the weekend, that's something Ray's done. He flipped it in a game. So, Ray, you had a hell of a flip this weekend. Walk us through it, all right, for Flip It Friday.
All right, so, I was doing some research, listening to the UFC talk, of course.
Oh, you want to know where you can find that? You can find that at thefourthandlong.com/MMA.
So, I was doing some research, listening, and came across a card of a guy, Said Nurmagomedov. Caught my attention just because of the last name. And I knew he was on this past weekend's card, which was a great card also.
Yeah, of course, you could catch that breakdown over on Thursday this week. Or it'll be out, and then you could go ahead, once you're done here, go check that one out. You'll do yourself a favor.
There's the plug. So the 2021 Prism Said Nurmagomedov, it was a blue parallel, so it was numbered out of 199. And it was at my local card shop, and I offered the guy $10 for it. And he took it. So that was on Thursday. So come Saturday night, I'm watching the fights, and just so happens Said Nurmagomedov has what was it, like 13 seconds or something?
It was a 45-second guillotine submission, 45 seconds into the first round against or I guess it is not as hot, but legitimate prospect in the bantamweight division in Cody Stamann. All right, so those Nurmagomedov boys are just built different. And, it did. He got them out there very quick. 45 seconds on the main card for pay-per-view is phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and a lot of people thought so. And Sunday night, threw it up on eBay, And, just a buy it now price or best offer, I had it at $50. Last night, someone bought it for $50, and I shipped it out this morning.
So we're talking $10 to $50. You flip this thing for 600% is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
In the span of 3 days?
Yeah, Thursday to Saturday.
That is a hell of a flip. And ladies and gentlemen, that goes to show you how quick you can make money off of this stuff. If you get the right card at the right time with the right information, that's easy money.
Yeah, $10. I mean, that's all it was. $10 into it. That's it. So $10 ain't nothing. No. You just got to do your research.
Exactly. That's why if you haven't gotten into card collecting and you're considering it, I'd say go for it. All right, because it doesn't take that much of an investment, and you might only make $40 off a card, but for a $10 investment, that is still really good stuff there. So that's why you got to do yourself a favor. You got to, even if you're already doing it, still go ahead, subscribe, follow us everywhere. All right, because you're going to get continual bi-weekly updates from yours truly, Ray Rodriguez. All right,
there you go. There you go.
That is very just commendable. Great stuff there, and you can tell that he knows a thing or two. And let's cap things off with let's go from Flipper Friday to the old classical way we cap things off, and that is with Flex If Friday. So Ray, we're sticking the theme of vintage, I believe. So let's go ahead and let's flex it.
All right, so we're keeping it vintage, and we were just talking about this guy. We're going to go with a 1960 Topps Hank Aaron.
That's nice.
Yeah, I bought it, nice. Not that long ago. Mm-hmm. But I think, it's weird how the market fluctuates. Vintage prices will go up and modern prices will go down, and then they just keep flip-flopping, and I got to get it. I got to get it during the dip. And now I think it's doubled in price since I've gotten it. But this is one I'm probably going to grade and hold on to for a long time.
Absolutely. I guess it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the other cards. I'm sure you saw a bit of a price increase a number of months ago, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a bittersweet kind of thing going as a holder for him because of how much of a legend he was. But at the same time, I guess it's not 100% negative. Man, that makes me sound like an asshole, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it sucks just because he's a baseball legend. He's probably on the Mount Rushmore for baseball players. But his prices went up. It's just what it is. That's just how it goes.
You can mourn for it, but you probably can't complain, at least when it comes to the prices. All right. It's the vintage cards, it's a little bit of a more cutthroat market is what it sounds like.
Gotta be a little more objective about it.
Well, that's why I love there's so many different niches in the card collecting field. And that's why it's such a fun thing to partake in. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Card Stonks episode 5. All right, we're already 10 weeks into this. It's been fantastic, and like I said earlier, if you've missed any of the last 4, it's all good because you can go check on those and still some really great information that you could absorb into your mind here. Ray, always a pleasure getting to hear the fantastic insight when it comes to the card collecting world, and you have just made everyone listening, including myself, that much more knowledgeable about this subject.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Got some more info for you guys.
Hey, so, you heard the man. The best way to stay up to date is, of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're on the path to 1,000, closing in there. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Rumble. I think technically we're on Google Podcasts too. Just anywhere, go ahead, hit us up. Everything you can find at thefourthandlong.com. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. And go out there and make yourselves some money.